Are we letting people in? I have a prompt. Okay. Hey, John, do we have everybody in? I think we have about 25 so far.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We have about 25 people so far. I think we can get started.
Okay.
We had about 30 people registered and it's only 12:02. So, okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Florence Renee, VP of Publicity. I am here today with my fellow board members, John Sanders, who is the VP of Operation. I have the new VP of Professional Development, Ingrid Holliday. So between the three of us, we will manage and run this event. Questions, you guys can, if you want to ask us or send us a question directly, just DM us and we will ask it for you. But we encourage everybody to be on camera if as much as possible, but you don't have to be. We wanted to have the very first Lunch and Learn to be about something that's very important, something that's very relevant, and what else? Agile. So today's Lunch and Learn is, the speaker is Mary Iqbal. She is a woman of many qualifications, 20+ years in this business. She owns her own company, Rebel Scrum, and she also runs her own conference around Agile, Scrum Day. Mary, you are free to kick off your presentation, maybe do an even better job at introducing yourself, and then help us to not pretend to be Agile. And hopefully we can take this information back to our companies, back to our team, and do better.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me here today. I am a passionate believer in the power of project managers to change the world and to adopt new methods to make life better for your project team and for the organization that you're supporting. So I'm going to go ahead and get started today. Today's presentation is all about stop pretending to be Agile. And when I say pretending to be Agile, I mean a lot of times when we're adopting something new, we can adopt the surface level actions without understanding the underlying principles and reasons behind why someone is approaching their work in a new way. So today's topic is all about understanding a little bit of the underlying why behind some of the Agile frameworks that are in use today, so that we can more fully adopt those frameworks and get more out of an Agile way of working. So today I call today's presentation, Stop Pretending to be Agile. Let's really adopt beyond just the surface level and get to the heart of Agile. So my name is Mary Iqbal. I have been using Agile for many, many years. I have over 20 years of project management experience. I have experience as Agile Transformation Manager for a large company with over 60 Agile teams. I have trained over 1,000 individuals in Agile frameworks. And as Florence said, I am the founder of Rebel Scrum. My website is at rebelscrum.site, and I offer all kinds of trainings from professional Scrum Master to professional Scrum Product Owner, all from the scrum.org certification provider. So I'm thrilled to be here with you today, and I am passionate about this topic. I have used Agile to deliver significant projects, to re-platform consumer websites from one technology to another, to launch new government contracts, to improve the auto adjudication rate for a claims processing system. I've used it with hundreds of stakeholders and with global teams. Whenever I want to succeed with the project, I almost always turn to Agile because it does improve the likelihood of success by enabling or ensuring that the project team is able to adapt to new information, that we're flexible, and that we learn as we go. That's what this is all about. As Florence said, I am also one of the organizers of Scrum Day. Scrum Day is a one-day conference. Our website is at scrumday.org. And it's a one-day conference that is in person in Madison, Wisconsin, scheduled for September 14th, 2023 at the Alliant Energy Center. We are bringing in some of the leading thought leaders from around the world. We're going to be talking about topics that are relevant and that are important to the success of Agile teams. Things like design thinking, evidence-based management, DevOps, right, for development, behavior-driven development, having the right mindset for approaching Agile, leadership topics, unconscious bias and its impact on the Scrum team, and how to scale with Scrum. So lots of exciting topics that are going to be brought to us from thought leaders, including Dave West, the CEO of Scrum.org, Keith McCandles, who's invented or one of the co-developers of Liberating Structures. Lots of great topics, lots of exciting things going on at Scrum Day. Scrum Day is not just about Scrum, it's about succeeding with Agile. And as I mentioned, our website is at scrumday.org. This event is scheduled for September 14th, 2023 at the Alliant Energy Center in Madison, Wisconsin. So without further ado, I want to get into our topic of stop pretending to be Agile. We're going to approach this by first defining what is Agile? What do I mean when I say the word Agile? Because there's a lot of different meanings, right? Depending on who you're talking to in the context of that. So I want to talk about what do I mean when I say Agile? We're going to talk a little bit about the Agile principles and values. And by the way, this is a participatory lecture. So I'm hoping that you're ready to engage, right? I saw a couple chats come through earlier. So find that chat button. We're going to need it. We're going to be talking about you might be pretending to be Agile if. We're going to talk about some situations that might be demonstrating that your organization is just surface level Agile. And then we're going to talk about some of the benefits of truly adopting agility at your organization. So first off, I want to ask you guys in the chat there, what do you think about when you hear the word Agile? I'll go to the chat. If you can put your thought in the chat, there we go. I see some coming through. So I see, here we go, flexibility and iteration. Oh, I want to give somebody a high five for that one. I see truly nimble, driving pace. Wait, did I get it? Driving pace, flexible, very nice. Project management, quick adjustments. Excellent. I think you guys are very familiar with this topic. Learn and adapt. I love that you said learn and adapt. Iterative, so that means delivering value frequently. Core values, nice. Adapting to change, learning as we go. Very good. Behaviors, not processes. Oh, I want to give you a high five too, Melissa. Trusting, build trust with our customers. Excellent. Frequent deployment from Florence, very nice. Rapid feedback. We're going to be talking about that today. Customer focused. I am passionate about that. This is why we're here, is to deliver value to our customer. And so one of the most important things we can do for a new Agile team is ask, who is the customer? We're not going to be talking about that today, but I do love that you brought that up. So those are excellent. This is excellent feedback. In fact, I think you did a better job, in fact, of defining it than I did here on this slide. I'm just saying here that Agile is an umbrella term. It's a term that can be used to refer to hundreds of mindsets. It can be used to refer to complementary practices. It can be used to refer to, as you said, frequent deployment, rapid feedback, adapting to change, having a core values. But it's an umbrella term. It can refer to all of these things. When we say agile, we mean a mindset, a benefit mindset that's focusing what's the benefit that I'm providing, right? And how do we most easily get there to provide that benefit? It's a term that refers to the 4 values in the Agile Manifesto. So for those of you who are not aware, there is an Agile Manifesto, which was created in 2001, and it includes 4 values and 12 principles. And a lot of our talk today is going to focus around those values and those principles. The teams who adopt those values and principles more fully are not pretending to be agile. They've really adopted it. So 4 values and 12 principles. Those values we're going to be talking about in just a moment. So there's a mindset, a benefit mindset, focusing on the right values, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, focusing on our 12 principles, sustainable development, delivering value frequently. And Agile can refer to really an unlimited number of different frameworks. Scrum is by far the most popular framework. Something like 90% of the teams who are using Agile are using Scrum. That number comes from the 16th annual State of Agile report from Digital AI. It's close to 90% of the teams who are using Agile are using Scrum. Agile can also refer to any kinds of complementary practices that are sort of like bolt-ons that you can use with Agile, with any of the Agile frameworks. So some teams write their product backlog items as user stories. That's a complementary practice that you can use with any of the frameworks. You can use it with Scrum. You can use it with Kanban. You can use it with Nexus, all these different ways of working. So the term Agile is really quite a broad term. But I want to zero in on the way Agile is defined as the Agile Manifesto, right? Those 4 values and those 12 principles. So I want to take a moment and let's look at those 4 values that are defined in the Agile Manifesto a little bit more in depth. So the 4 values in the Agile Manifesto are as follows. We are uncovering better ways of developing product by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. It's not that there's no value to processes and tools, but what really matters is, did you understand? Did the information get to the right people, right? Did they understand what was communicated to them? Are they interacting well? That's what really matters. We value working software or working product above comprehensive documentation. What matters is we develop that working product. The comprehensive documentation is merely a means to that end. It's not that there's no value, but it is a means to an end. We value customer collaboration above contract negotiation. We want to hear from our customers. We want to know how it's working. And we value, this one at first hurt me, we value responding to change over following a plan. We want to know if there's new information that we can take advantage of, new customer insights, new market trends. We want to know about those and we want to respond to those rather than sticking with the plan. So it's not that we don't plan in Agile. In fact, we plan more, but we plan much more frequently and constantly reevaluating that. And that's expected and okay. So I want to pause for a moment and ask you all, since I think you guys can do this, right? What are some examples of this in your own world of these values? Okay. Creating a safe space. Oh, I like that, right? A space where we can work together. Agile teams are all about small groups of cross-functional people, and we need to have a safe space where those folks can collaborate. So valuing individuals and their interactions above processes and tools. Do what makes sense. Very nice, right? Responding to change. Do what makes sense. Very good. How else would you guys interpret this in your own world? Working in sprints. Very nice. Delivering value frequently. Responding to change. Very good. Okay, fantastic. Thank you all for that. Right? Okay. So we're going to move on. Those are the 4 values of the manifesto, and we're defining Agile. I want to look quickly at the 12 principles from the Agile Manifesto. And I like to do this kind of quickly. I'd like to challenge you guys all to take 1 or more of these and just bring it down to 5 words or less. So for example, for the first one, I'm going to do it. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. I would bring that down to satisfy the customer. So I'm going to challenge you guys, pick any one of these 12 and bring that down to 5 words or less. I bet you didn't think you're going to be doing this when you woke up today.
I can go. Working software would be no defect or low defect.
Right, nice, very good, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, low defects, right? We got to have it be usable. Okay, we have 4th box is active collaboration. Oh, very nice. Oh, I like that. 2 words. Okay, here we go. Constant collaboration. Business people and dev must work together. Very nice. Constant collaboration. I like that. Others.
On that one, you were circling the simplicity. I thought the MVP, minimum viable product. That's
like
what
that.
came to mind.
Nice. I like that one. 8th box, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Oh, I love the pun of that, by the way. Okay. Then we have reflect and adjust accordingly. Very nice. Last box. Okay, I'm going to get a couple more here before we move on. Continuous attention to technical excellence. I just bring that down to good design, maybe. Okay, first box, second row is meaningful work and empowered team. Ooh, nice. Oh, I do like that, empowered. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you all for participating in that. So these are the 12. Oh, we have one more. Can you address self-organizing? So self-organizing, in fact, is actually, I'd say, one of the most misunderstood words in Scrum, phrases. It comes from the Scrum Guide. And the previous version of the Scrum Guide called it self-organizing, and now they've moved it to self-management. Self-management just means that those who are closest to the work should determine how to achieve the work. It doesn't mean that we don't have bosses or managers in Scrum, right? That's not what it means at all. Self-managing just means the team themselves needs to have be empowered to determine how to approach their work. So for example, determining who's going to do a particular task and how are we going to do this particular development effort. Managing their work themselves. When you have teams that are empowered, they're able to adapt much more quickly than if they have to go ask for permission all the time. It really just slows things down. The Scrum Master doesn't make all decisions. That is correct. The Scrum Master facilitates discussions so that the developers can decide how to approach their work. Fantastic question. In fact, I'm doing an article about this very shortly. So if you go out to rebelscrum.site in the next few days, I'm doing an article on self-management. So take a look at rebelscrum.site. And you'll see an article coming out soon about this. Okay, I'm passionate about that idea of self-management because it is so misunderstood. All right, very good. So let's move on. So we were talking about Agile, and we're talking about just defining Agile in the context of the Agile Manifesto. And I just want to take a moment and say that no matter what framework you pick, Scrum, Kanban, whatever, underneath the framework, there needs to be this idea of agility, a mindset of agility. And that mindset needs to have reference to those 4 values and those 12 principles. We value, right? We value, the Agile Manifesto values, right? Making sure that we value individuals and interactions above processes and tools, and responding to change above following a plan, and making sure that we understand as an organization that working product is the primary measure of progress. So making sure that regardless of the framework, we are understanding and adopting those values and principles. So what I'm going to talk about now is a couple of examples of situations where maybe you might be pretending to be agile. So we got a couple of examples and we're going to walk through, and then I'm going to ask you on your opinion, what are some other examples in your world? So for our first discussion topic then is, you might be pretending to be agile if you aren't delivering value incrementally. Now, when we were defining agile a little bit earlier, a couple of you guys did talk about this idea of iterative development. There's two I words, right? There's iterative, which means delivering value frequently. And there's incremental delivery, which means whatever I deliver is usable. To make this point, I just want to say that I've worked with teams who've been using a framework for years and who didn't really understand this concept. It's so important. So I'm actually going to walk you through like 8 examples of this, because I think that one of these will speak to you. And at the end of all of these 8 examples of what do I mean when I say incremental, what does that mean? I'm going to ask you guys to vote on which one of these spoke the most to you. And then we're going to do a game of identifying incremental delivery. So you might be pretending to be agile if you're not doing incremental delivery. What do I mean by that? Incremental delivery. So the first example or analogy I have for this is a team that is working together to go towards this goal, right? This kind of goal in the air. Every time I deliver something that's usable, I'm taking a step towards that goal. So if I'm using Scrum, every sprint, I'm delivering something that's usable, that's a step in the direction of that goal. And then I do it again, and I take another step, and I take another step, and every step is usable, right? We're working together, and every one is a step in the right direction. So that's my first analogy, is just a simple staircase to represent this idea of I'm delivering something and it's usable. Okay. The next example I have is from Heinrich Nielberg, and it's really quite famous. I got to ask you guys, who's heard of this one, the car example? Have you guys seen this one before? It's quite famous. So the idea here is at the top, the team is using a traditional method, right? And if you were to deliver transportation, or let's say a car, with a waterfall or a traditional approach, you might first deliver a tire, and then the drivetrain, and then you might deliver the frame, and then finally you get the full car, right? But the customer doesn't get anything until the very end. You're working towards this singular deliverable. With an agile approach, you approach value differently. You might first deliver a skateboard, and then a skateboard with a handlebar, and then a bicycle, and then a motorcycle, and then at last a car. The customer gets something every step of the way, and this is a huge change from the way from traditional approaches to value delivery. Traditional approaches to value delivery just focus on only the end goal. But agile approaches asks, what's the next most valuable thing that I can do for my customer? So if there was an agile whisperer or a scrum whisperer, they would be asking, what's the most valuable thing to do next? Now, this example, the pushback I usually get from this example is, well, that's a lot of waste. It is just an example. I don't mean to imply that this example tends to imply a certain amount of waste, and we're gonna attack that with a different example later. But the point of this example is agile teams deliver value that's usable frequently. So we're gonna come back again. So that's our second example. Our third example of incremental delivery, and this is really more of a what not to do example, right? Team that's not delivering value incrementally might have this giant hexagon that they're all trying to push, and it's got all kinds of stuff in it. It's all just somewhat related, right? But they're not, because they're delivering this giant thing, right? They're not able to focus on the new things that have come along, like these small things that they could pick up if they weren't pushing this giant boulder. Okay, so that's our third example. Our fourth example is probably the most practical, and I've actually lived this kind of example. So if you were to deliver a software application with a waterfall approach or a traditional approach, and let's imagine that you had to have 5,000 fields in this software application, right? It's a really difficult application, right? If you were to approach this with traditional delivery, you might build a database for all 5,000 fields. And then you might build the integration layer. And then finally, you're going to build the user interface for all 5,000 fields. And the customer doesn't get anything until the very end. And you only find out about integration issues at the very end. So if that database doesn't work with that UI, you don't know about it until the very end. And I've lived that. If you were to deliver that same application with an Agile approach, you might build the first 20 or 30 fields, maybe even the first 100, right? And you build the database, the integration layer, and the user interface, right? And you deliver it. Is that what you had in mind, customer? Yes, that's what we had in mind, right? And then you deliver the next 20 and the next 20, and you're constantly building upon what you've already done. And this approach for value delivery is, I'm gonna go with life-changing, right? Because you're going to find out any integration issues earlier. You're going to find out any technical issues earlier. And you're going to get feedback from your customer a lot earlier because they're going to let you know, oh, that's not what I wanted. Well, I would rather know that after the first 20 fields than after I've invested all 5,000 fields in development. Another example is this kind of traditional software development lifecycle example. So, one kind of older way of thinking about waterfall software development might be that you first plan, analyze, design, build, test, release, right? And each one of these steps is done sequentially. And each step can take a month, a couple weeks, however long it takes for that project. And the customer only gets something at the very end. If you were to use an Agile approach, right, you would still plan, build, test, design, all of that. You'd still do that. But you're doing it in much smaller batches. And then you're doing it again, and then you're doing it again, and then you're doing it again. And over all that, you may have sort of a roadmap or a plan for where we're going next. So for an Agile team, they actually plan more. They plan more frequently, and they're replanning the larger approach constantly. A couple more examples. Here's my hexagon. You might see there's a trend. I do like the hexagon, right? So if you were to deliver a giant hexagon with a waterfall approach, right, you deliver the whole hexagon in one go. If you were to deliver the hexagon with an Agile approach, you deliver it in a bunch of little pieces, and they all add up to the hexagon. A couple more examples here, right, because this is such an important topic, this idea of incremental delivery. When done well, is such a huge impact on your teams. All right, this example is, it kind of makes me laugh and is very popular before lunch. But the example of if you had to deliver a mile-long peanut butter and jelly sandwich for some reason, right? If you were to deliver that with an Agile approach, you would deliver it a bite at a time. But if you were to deliver that with a waterfall approach, you might have a separate team working on the bread, and a different team working on the peanut butter, and a different team working on the jelly, and you might have a different team working on the bottom piece of bread, and a whole nother team whose job was only to figure out integration, right? All these separate teams going on. If you were to deliver this with Agile, the whole team will be working together. The bread team would work with the peanut butter team and the jelly team, and they'd figure out how to deliver that first bite, and then the next bite, and then the next bite, right? And so this example speaks to me a little bit more to the cross-functional team approach than any of the others. All right, and I believe this is our final example. This example just shows a team who has a list of to-do items. So more a team who's already adopting some Agile. And a lot of folks would say, okay, well, the first thing is for module B, and the second two is for module A, and the fourth thing is for module B again. So maybe we should just combine all the module Bs together. But if you do that, right, you're effectively, in effect, you're ordering the product backlog by module and not by priority. So this again speaks to a little bit about what not to do. So I'm going to ask you guys now, right? We've gone through like 8 examples of what do I mean when I say incremental delivery. So I want to ask you guys, which one of those spoke to you? Which ones did you like? Which one made the most sense? Which one resonated with you? I've got them numbered here on the screen.
I really like the sandwich one, but all of them made me think of past examples, situations on my team.
Yeah. it's painful to watch teams who don't do this, right? Who instead try and deliver it all in one go. It's so much harder, right, than delivering it a piece at a time. Okay, so we got some for number 4, which is the software example. We got a couple for the car example. Number 2 is winning by a landslide. Number 8, okay. 4 applies to my environment. Yes, yes. But still, number 2 is the lead at this time. Other votes? Oh, number 5. Okay, yeah, 5 made sense to me too. Especially when I first started, that one really spoke to me. So I understood that one. Number 3. Okay, somebody got the hexagon. Yes, the hexagon. Okay, number 3. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Oh, number 2, another last minute vote for the car. The car is really, it's probably the most famous example of this idea of incremental delivery. So I'll just tell you a very brief story. A number of years ago, I was working on a team who was re-platforming a major consumer website. We were taking it from one technology to another, and it was a global team. And we did talk about, well, what's our skateboard? What's the first thing we can do in this upcoming sprint that will add value? So, having that conversation, what is our skateboard? And so for our very first sprint, all we did was we installed the software, got the dev environment set up, and they delivered a page with the logo, right? Now, it wasn't the end car, right? That was not the car that we wanted at the end, but it was a step towards the car, and the customer could see, right? And so I think we actually used the wrong logo, and so we got that feedback. Thank you. Thank you for telling us the wrong logo. Thank you. But we delivered something, right? And that's the important thing. We delivered something that's maybe we wouldn't release that to production, but it was usable. We could look at it. And this way of approaching allows a great deal more visibility to your customer, enables you to find technical risks earlier, allows you to change direction more easily. So lots of benefits to that, which we're going to talk about later. But the car example, to me, is the one that I refer to the most, really, when I'm speaking to a team. What's our skateboard? What's the first thing that we can do? What's our next skateboard? That one resonates with me a lot. All right, so I'm going to play a little game with you all, right? I think it's applying this matters. So I'm going to ask you guys all. I'm going to show a bullet point in a minute, and I'm going to ask you: is this incremental or is it not? So if it is incremental, you can enter a Y right in the chat, and if it's not incremental, you can just put a no or an N in the chat. So here we go. You guys ready? Let's rock to it. The first one is writing a requirements document which describes all requirements needed to deliver the project upfront. Is that incremental? No, right? No. You'd be surprised how often when you ask a team to come up with their to-do list, a lot of teams will say, let's write requirements first. And I'm just like, no, I don't think you're getting this idea of incremental. It's hard to let go of, though. It's really hard to let go of. So instead of doing a giant requirements document, what you would do is create, if you were using Scrum, a product backlog. You would identify a product owner, and that product owner would be accountable for creating the to-do list. And each item on the to-do list would describe a unit of value that we want to provide. So good, universally correct on that one. All right, so here we go. Creating a roadmap. A roadmap is a visual representation that sort of summarizes what direction we want to go. And the roadmap changes as more information is learned. Yes, right? The roadmap describes what are the incremental units of value that I want to provide. And if we find out that we're going in the wrong direction, we change the roadmap, right? Very nice, thank you. All right, here's another one. Releasing the product frequently to the customer in order to get early feedback. Maybe these examples were too easy. You guys are 100%, I don't know. All right, nicely done, very good. You all said yes, that is an example of incremental delivery. And finally, judging success only by whether the team delivered the originally planned scope. Is that incremental delivery? No. Very good. Okay, that was unanimous. So I want to ask you guys a question. I don't think I will actually. I don't want to put you on the spot and ask you, are you guys using incremental delivery? But just think about this in your own environments. It's easy to understand this concept, right? But it's hard to apply it. This idea of what's the most valuable thing to do next sounds like it would be easy until you sit down and you try to apply it. So the one thing I think about is, if I were to build this thing in my garage, what's the first thing that I would do? Now, I know that most of us would not be building software in our garage, but you get the analogy there. If I was really to sit down and build this myself, where would I start? Think about it that way. Rather than thinking of your end goal, think about what's the most valuable thing to do next. All right, very good. So we're going to move on. We have, I want to relate this back to the 12 principles of the Agile Manifesto. And I'd like to ask you guys your opinion on incremental delivery. Which one of the principles of the Agile Manifesto speak to the concept of incremental delivery? So if you just want to put the number in the chat, which one of these principles? Number 3, very nice. Delivering value, working software frequently from a couple weeks to a couple months with the preference for the shorter time scale. Very good. Number 1, yes, is absolutely right. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Absolutely, that is clearly speaking to incremental delivery. Number 10, I also do think that one is. You could go either way on that one. So I do think number 10, I was on the fence about it. Got some number 1s coming through here. Number 3 again. Let's see, number 10 again. Yep, very good. 12. Number 12 was, at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective and tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. And then we got number 2, we welcome changing requirements, even late in development, and another number 1. Very nice. Thank you guys. I agree with all you guys. The ones I called out as really explicitly saying incremental delivery were just these 4, but I do think most of the principles of the manifesto do rely upon incremental delivery. So for example, number 12, you can't do this, number 12, if you're not delivering incrementally. But I just called out these 4 as directly calling for incremental delivery. Working software is a primary measure of progress because we deliver something that works, so we know we're on the right track. Delivering working software frequently, right? Clearly, that's incremental delivery. Number 2, we welcome changing requirements. And number 1, satisfy the customer through continuous delivery of value software. Very nice. Number 6, let's look at number 6. The most efficient and effective method for conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. This came out in 2001, before video conferencing was really big. And so I think that the face-to-face, I think the definition of that has changed, right? To mean something a little different. I would consider a Zoom face-to-face nowadays. But good call out though. Okay, so I'm gonna pause and ask: Are there any questions about incremental delivery? Okay, I want to just circle out this session by not this topic, I should say, by saying, how can you stop pretending to be incremental, right? It's great to recognize it, but how do you stop pretending, and how do you really get to incremental delivery? It's not easy. It is not easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it. So the first step is create a definition of done. This is something from the Scrum framework. So if you're using Scrum, and 90% of teams are, then one of your first things towards moving towards incremental delivery is create a definition of done. What do we mean when we say something is done? A definition of done might include things like it's tested, right? Or we've conducted a code review. We need to understand, what do we mean when we say something is done and it's usable? How do we define usable? Does it mean that it's just been developed and tested? Does it mean that it's been developed and tested and code review is complete? Does it mean it's been developed and tested and it's integrated in with the main code base? What do we mean when we say it's done? If we're going to be delivering something frequently that's done, what do we mean when I say that it's done? Right? So first, creating that definition of done. And then again, assuming that you're using Scrum, the next thing you would do is make sure that the higher ordered product backlog items, the higher ordered things on your to-do list, are sized so that they can be completed within one sprint. Right? Every single thing on your higher ordered product backlog items. I'm not saying you need to size your whole product backlog. That's a huge investment. I don't know, you need to do all that. And that might be wasteful. But at least the top items should be sized smaller, right? So that each item is something that's usable. We don't need to shoot for delivering the car, but what is our skateboard, right? And what is that amount of work that we can deliver? And then using the retrospective, reflect and improve frequently to talk about how can we do better as a team. So using that retrospective to find out why aren't we delivering incrementally and how can we change that? What can we do on our team to deliver value incrementally? All right, I want to pause again. Are there any questions about incremental delivery?
Not a question, more of a statement. My team and I went to a dojo and we had some issues. So we were the perfect example for a team that needed to be part of a dojo. And one of the things we did, we dropped story pointing. So for the last year, none of our stories have had the points. I'm still on the fence as to whether we achieved what we thought we were trying to get, but it cut down all the back and forth between the developers as far as are they right, are they wrong, that doubt, and or people competing, adding their number of points to say they had a lot of work. It really nipped that in the bud. But whether or not it was the best course of action, I'm still on the fence about that. But it was interesting that the dojo coach, that was their option, that was their direction to us. I didn't think they would let us get away with it, but they co-signed it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it depends on your environment, right? Some teams do get a lot of value from pointing. Mm-hmm. Some teams use what's called flow metrics. And so what they do is rather than assigning a size, right, or categorizing by size, what they do is ask the question, is this small enough to be completed within a sprint? Yes or no? That's what you're really trying to get at anyways with pointing. So asking the question, is it small enough to be completed within a sprint? And then over time, you'll learn as a team, if you have sort of a normal distribution of size items in your product backlog, you'll be able to get a sense of how many can we complete in a sprint? And you use that for planning instead of velocity. It's actually quite impactful. I ran a little experiment a number of years ago, and I used a forecast that was based on points for a particular initiative, and I used a flow metrics way, and they both came up with the same answer. So in my mind, when you're forecasting, points or flow metrics, they're both equal. Only points takes a lot more effort to go in size. So why not just do something easier?
Right.
Yeah, great question, great comment. Okay, I'm going to go on to my last sort of topic of pretending to be agile. And this one's a lot briefer, right? So you might be pretending to be agile if you aren't continually improving. And what do I mean by that, continually improving? I mean, if you're not using the retrospective. So if you're using Scrum, the Scrum framework includes 5 events, and the final event is the retrospective, the sprint retrospective. This is an opportunity for the team to talk about how's it going? What can we do better to improve the way we work together as a team? Does our definition of done need to be improved? Do we need to size product backlog items appropriately? Are we struggling with interruptions during the sprint? The retrospective is such an underrated event within Scrum. The agenda that you use is completely up to you. There's a lot of great popular ways to have a retrospective. My favorite, right, what I just always kind of come back to is just asking 3 questions, right? What's going well, what's holding us back, or what's not going well, and then brainstorm ideas for improvement and pick one. What's really important about the retrospective is that you're having this conversation. Don't skip the retrospective. Make sure it's positive and kept within a time box, and then make sure that it's resulting in actionable improvements and take those actions as soon as possible. Teams who are skipping the retrospective are, teams who are skipping the retrospective are it's just such a waste, right? Such a missed opportunity. So I got a comment from Tanya. We use keep doing, start doing, and stop doing. A nice one. I like that. Others, what other agendas do you guys use? Keep, start, and stop. Nice one. Same. Got somebody else uses that one too. Stop, start, continue is another good one, right? I also, another great one would be to ask the question, are we living the Scrum values? Right? And what can we do to more fully live those Scrum values? That's a great conversation. Are we delivering incrementally? What can we do to ensure that we are delivering incrementally? My advice to you is don't skip that retrospective. It is such an important opportunity for the team to improve the way that they work together. So let me ask you guys a question. In terms of the retrospective and tying that back to the Agile principles, which one of the principles do you think references or applies to the retrospective? Yeah, definitely 12, right? 12 for sure. I also wonder if 9 actually might as well, right? Because we're going to talk about definition of done. So maybe number 9. I was on the fence on that one. Any others? Number 4. Okay, business people and developers work together daily. Yeah, so enhancing the way we work together, making sure that we are collaborating. I think you're right. I think I probably should have called that one out. And number 11, best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Very nice. Okay, here's what I called out, but I do think perhaps I should have included more in this one. So number 4, perhaps, and also maybe number 11. These are the ones that I called out. Number 12, of course. I also put sustainable development because we're going to be talking in the retrospective about how we improve the way we work together. And I do think number 8 is something that's so significantly impacted by the retrospective that I called it out. And then number 5, build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need. And the retrospective is so important for creating that environment and helping them get the job done. So I called that one out as well. But I do think you could make the case for more of these applying. I pulled these one out, but I think you could make the case for more. All right. So how can you stop pretending, right? Don't skip the retrospective. Right? It's such a tragedy. When teams skip the retrospective, it is a huge red flag. Something's going on there. So don't skip it. And ensure that that retrospective does result in some kind of actionable improvement. Take a vote. Don't try and do everything. Just pick maybe 1 or 2 things that you can really accomplish in the immediate future. And then take action on those retrospective commitments as soon as possible. All right, you guys have been a really fun, this has been a really fun topic for me. I want to close this out by just talking about the benefits of agility. And I've referenced these a couple of times going throughout this lecture today, but the benefits of agility, right? When you use agility, you maintain a higher ability to change direction, right? If you're working on something and the market shift happens, right, you're going to be able to change direction much more quickly because you don't have all this half-done work just sitting around, right, that you have to finish before you can change direction. You're just working on this small piece, finish it up and then change direction, right? So the ability to change maintains a lot higher ability to change when you're using agility. Risk, right? Risk goes down a lot faster when you're delivering value incrementally. Business value comes up a lot faster because if you choose to at any time, you can release to production, share that with your customers when you feel that it's ready, right? And visibility maintains very high. Every sprint, we're showing our stakeholders, what are we doing, right? So that there's a lot more visibility as we go. Okay, so I want to say thank you guys so much. I do want to open it up for questions for the last few minutes here. Are there any questions? You guys have been great, though. I got to tell you, I really appreciate your willingness to engage in the chat. It's not easy. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that.
If no one's going to ask Mary, I have a question.
Of course.
So I have 2 questions. Number 1 is, have you given thoughts around quiet quitting, and how does a agile leader address that? That's my first question. My second question is, given the recent large organizations that have laid off agile delivery leads, and I would imagine Scrum Masters and project managers, how do we as Scrum Masters, as project managers, how do we address that perception? There seems to be a large perception now that project leaders, project managers don't add value. One example is Capital One just laid off 1,100 Agilists. So how do we address that at whatever level we're at? So those are my two questions.
Great questions, and it's so relevant right now. So I'm going to start with your first question, which was quiet quitting, which I'm going to define quickly as, I'm not really engaged. I'm not really trying anymore. I'm just sort of coasting along. So quiet quitting, I think that the best way to address that is in the retrospective. We need to be holding each other accountable. So for example, if there's a member of, let's say, the development team that's not pulling their weight, that's not delivering value, it should be discussed openly, right? We can say it, but say it with kindness, right? Bob, right? We've noticed that you didn't deliver a story last sprint. What's going on? Let's talk about it. Right? Holding each other accountable in the retrospective, in my mind, is really the best way to address this idea of quiet quitting. Another thing that we can do is make sure that our goals for the Scrum team or the Agile team are clearly communicated. The product owner is accountable for the content and ordering of the product backlog, and that product backlog includes a goal. And having a goal makes a huge difference, a goal that's clearly communicated. We all understand, what are we doing here? I know that the times that I've been the most engaged have been when I understood what's the goal that we're trying to accomplish. And I felt empowered to achieve that goal. So I'm going to say the retrospective, using that retrospective and making sure that that goal is clearly communicated are the best things you can do. Okay, we've got a couple comments come in. Okay. So, all right. Any follow-ups to that one? Quiet quitting? Okay, and then your next question was about making sure that the Agilists are providing value. And my best advice is double down on incremental delivery. I mean, there's a phrase, what have you done for me lately, right? A lot of organizations can kind of forget, right? Why do we have these Agile teams? But it's hard to forget you when you're delivering value all the time. If you're constantly having new functionality that's ready, that's done, you're proving the value to the organization. And that would be the number one way I think we can address how do we provide value to the organization is delivering value frequently. Another thing that I would encourage Agile teams to do is embrace either evidence-based management or outcome-based metrics. This means, how do we measure success? We don't measure success by how many product backlog items we delivered. That doesn't matter. What matters is, are we moving the needle on the things that matter to the organization? So find out what's my product goal, and then find metrics that measure progress towards that product goal. So for example, if our goal is to increase sales, let's say, are we measuring our impact on sales? Are we measuring our impact on customer engagement? So making sure that you're delivering value frequently, and then you're measuring what matters, measuring either outputs or outcomes, or using evidence-based management. I encourage you to take a look at the evidence-based management class on scrum.org, because I think it's very powerful. All right, and then I had another question. Can you talk about larger organizational pretending just versus team pretending? For example, influencing a department for executive to adopt better Agile. We do have 6 minutes left, so I will address this question quickly. Larger organizational pretending versus just team pretending. So when I think of the larger organization, what I think in pretending to be Agile, I think about empowerment, right? And making sure that the teams are cross-functional and have all the skills that they need to deliver value. Those are the two things that come up for me for pretending at an organizational level. Also asking the question at the organizational level, why are we going Agile? And making sure that the organization understands that, and that this is a real commitment that the organization is is making to Agile teams. And what does it mean for leadership to make that kind of commitment? It all comes back to, are we leading in the old way, right? Which is maybe command and control, or are we leading in the new way, which is empowerment, right? Servant leadership, authentic leadership. Are we changing the way that the organization interacts with those who are delivering value in this new method? Because it can't just be the Scrum team. It also has to be that support from the organization and that empowerment. Okay. All right. I think I got all the questions. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Florence. And before I do that, I just want to say thank you guys so much. This has been a really great experience for me. I appreciate being here, and I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time to engage with this. So thank you so much for that.
Definitely lots of engagement, lots of interaction today. And this is the kind of stuff I like to see, all of us on the board love to see. And your presentation, like I said in the very, very beginning, very relevant with all these layoffs, all these Agile people getting let go. And maybe, you know, we can kind of take what we're doing and bring it back to our teams and maybe our bosses, and their bosses, who knows? So again, we want to thank you all for coming out today. We have a lot on the agenda for 2023. It's our 25th anniversary. We have PDD on the calendar for September 14th and the 15th. We are looking for volunteers. We're looking for regular everyday volunteers to help us run the chapter. We have a lot coming, including a baseball game in July. And the announcement will be firing off sometime today once I get my meetings out of the way. And please, by all means, check out the event listing on our website. Follow us on social media. That way you know what's happening, what's the next event. And definitely, please register, because we want our speakers to be welcomed, and we want them to feel like they're not speaking to just a wall or the Zoom universe. So I hope to see you all in our next event, which is on February 16th. And it's going to be a special keynote to celebrate, commemorate Black History Month. And then on the 21st, we have another wonderful presentation by Kevin Lovell for attending projects and programs. And it kind of ties nicely with this presentation today. So again, we cannot thank you all enough for showing up today. I think we at the highest number, we were at 30. People on the call on a Tuesday at noon, and I can't say thank you enough. Ingrid, do you have anything to say before we wrap up, before I close us out?
No, just thank you, everybody. We're excited about this year, this being our 26th year. The baseball game, that is already up and ready to go. It is going to be capped at 45 people. So if you're into baseball, they're playing a Cubs affiliated team, go ahead and get out there and get registered. Plus, we have other wonderful things that are going to be happening this year. And we need volunteers. Contact me, contact someone on the board, whether you have an hour to give, 2 hours to give, whatever. We can use your assistance to make ourselves the best chapter in Central Illinois, which we are the only chapter in Central Illinois, but the best chapter in Illinois, period. Right. Let's make that our goal. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Florence.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we are done. John, we can stop recording, and we'll see you guys next month.
Thank you.